Folks, this is Jimmy Leach, and I'd like to welcome you to this episode of Police Perspective. I'm your host today for the next few minutes, and there's a case that's been in the news media an awful lot lately. Two young people, Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie, engaged at one time, maybe decided not to get married quite so quickly at some point. They took a trip cross country together in a van that they had outfitted that they could live in if need to. I think they stayed in the motel some. Then they were gone for a while. Then the young man, Brian Laundrie, showed back up at his parents' home in Florida. Gabby was not with him. He hunkered down in his parents' home. They got a lawyer. They haven't been communicating except at this point. The only communications that the lawyer has said that we're just going to stay in the background right now, even though there have been tremendous pleas from Gabby's family for him to please help and tell them something, whatever he knows about where Gabby may be. She is just missing at this point. This is the 19th, September 19th, 2021, Sunday afternoon that we're talking right now to this point. Gabby is missing, and so is Brian. He stayed home for a while, and then he has disappeared. They're looking for him, and that is what we know at this point. At this time, it's only a missing persons case. I guess maybe two missing persons. Of course, they're both of age. They can go missing if they wish, but it's sad to say, but in police business, we have to hope for the best while we plan for the worst. Let's just look at one aspect of this situation, and let's just say, perhaps things shake out to where Brian Laundrie decides to talk to police. You say, well, that's not going to happen. He's already got a lawyer and all this. Folks, things happen a lot of times. Case that I worked a few years back, cold case homicide. Two homicides, same guy, two homicides. As a matter of fact, we went and talked to him in prison. He was in prison for an armed robbery, I believe, at that time. He had spent most of his life in and out of jail. A hardcore guy. We were looking at him for killing two people. I talked to a lieutenant on the police department who had arrested him in the past. And I said, what's the chances of this guy talking to me? And he said, none. He's not going to talk to you, Leach. But you got to try, folks. You got to try. So myself and my partner went up to talk to him in prison. And within about 15 seconds, or maybe a little longer than that, he started talking about getting a lawyer. He didn't ask for one, but he talked about it, which case we left. Told him we'd probably see him again. A couple of weeks later, went and talked to him again. This time, he admitted within 1 hour he had confessed to killing two people. So he went from having in his mind to ask for a lawyer to giving total confessions to two first-degree murder cases. So you never know about these things. The trick to it is this. You got to be ready in case you get the opportunity. Let's say something bad has happened, and Brian Laundrie says at some point, for whatever reason, we'll talk about reasons in a moment, but he says, I want to talk to the police. You don't need to say, well, I'll tell you what, let's get back together tomorrow. Let me double check my facts and talk to some other guys, and I'll get back with you in the morning, we'll talk. No, you don't do that. They may change their mind in the morning. When they say I'm ready to talk right then. And you don't stop. You listen to what they got to say. If you're in Florida, I don't care if two alligators come in the living room. You ignore them. You keep talking, okay? You listen to what they got to say. All right? Let it go then. You talk to them right then. In this particular case, you know, what it looks like now the only thing they've got to do, I guess, right now, as far as investigators go, is running down such things as cell phone records, bank records, perhaps credit card, debit cards, those type things. And if you find out where they've been, then you go and talk and see if anybody's seen them there. But understand this, you know, such things as cell phone records and credit card slips, those type things, just like DNA and fingerprints. Which, of course, DNA and fingerprints probably wouldn't matter much in this case because they were together. Admittedly, they were together. There's no doubt about that. They were sending social media pictures over Instagram and what have you the whole time they were gone. But circumstantial evidence usually needs to be explained. You know, one of my coworkers, my laptop might get stolen tomorrow, and you might pull the DNA and or fingerprints of one of my coworkers off that laptop. That doesn't mean they stole it, does it? No. It's circumstantial evidence. In this case, we're going to need, if there is something wrong, hopefully, folks, there's nothing wrong. Hopefully it's not, but it doesn't look good right now. Hopefully somebody will tell somebody something. That's what we need. If we do get to Laundrie, you never know. Mr. Brian Laundrie might come around to want to talk to us. Can you do anything now to help that? You might be able to. As I said, he and young Gabby were sending all kind of social media stuff on their trips. Obviously, they like that kind of thing, as most people their age do. So you have to figure if he has access now to social media, and he probably does somewhere or another, he's keeping up with things. Perhaps watching television, seeing things on the internet. Messages could be sent to him over that, not maybe overt messages, but covert messages to appeal to his sense of dignity or whatever. And we'll talk about various motivations here in a moment. You might even, the FBI has gotten in this case, you might even talk to the profilers, FBI Behavioral Science Unit, who are fantastic at what they do. Let me tell you, I've dealt with them personally on a case I had many years ago. Fantastic. Studied under a guy named Roy Hazelwood. They know what they're doing. But to get opinion from them at what kind of things might appeal to Mr. Laundrie or even his parents. Remember, he went straight home to his parents and stayed there, lay with them. And that's where he went for solace. That's where he went for comfort. That's where he went for protection. If you could get them on the side of speaking to the police, that might help a whole lot. So you might want to send messages. You could, like I say, you could talk to the profilers. If you can't get to the profilers at Quantico, maybe somebody they have trained, or a professor in your area who specializes in abnormal psychology, perhaps, or some good old police that's talked to a lot of folks and see what they think. Anyway, you might have a chance of doing something like that. Another thing, since we're talking about media, obviously this case has generated a tremendous amount of press. One thing that you want to try your best to do in any kind of case, especially one as high profile such as this one, keep something to yourself, some bit of evidence, some fact that no one except the perpetrator and the investigators would know. That way, if you question a person and they know that fact, you got to feel like you got a hold of the right person, or at least you feel pretty good about it. You still want to check further. You don't quit then. It's a good sign. And it also guards against a false statement. Okay? If they don't know that fact, perhaps they're giving you a false statement, or even if it's a confession, a false confession. If you're interested in false confessions, how to guard against it and how to spot one, we did an episode a couple weeks ago, I think, and it's on the YouTube TV channel in our police training section, Blue Steel. It's all about false confessions and what to do about those. If you're going to try and figure out how to talk to him, should you get a chance to, once again, you got to be ready for it in case it happens. You never know about these things. Try to figure out what kind of person he is. You want to talk to friends, people that know him. Check everything. Once again, social media is huge, obviously. See what he puts on social media, see what he's interested in, everything you find out about that. You know, is he cunning? Okay? Is he hiding out and getting lawyers to be cunning, to be slick? Or is this kid suicidal, torn up about what's happened? And so beside himself that he's decided to go somewhere and do something. You know, you have to try to figure out what kind of mind frame he's in. Some of the obvious approaches or themes you might use with a person like that is guilt. You know, we had a guy that a bank robber broke out of jail in Fayette County, Tennessee, many years ago. Got up to Chicago, got arrested up there. Myself and a chief deputy from the Fayette County Sheriff's Office went up and picked him up. He confessed to us on the way back. Confessed to a bank robbery. We got back in court, and they put my partner on a witness stand in a suppression hearing, trying to get the statement thrown out. And they said, you know, did you coerce him? He said, nope. Did you promise him anything? Nope. Did you threaten him? Nope. Did you mistreat him? Nope. And they said, well, if you didn't do any of that, Mr. Harvey, Larry Harvey was a partner's name, great guy, great investigator. They said, if he didn't do any of that to him, Mr. Harvey, why on earth would a man confess to a bank robbery? And Larry said, this was a classic. I wish a jury was sitting there here. Larry said, Counselor, the only thing I can tell you is he must have had an overwhelming burden of guilt on his heart. Burden of guilt can be heavy on any of us, folks, on any of us. And a lot of times that's the best advantage police have in someone talking to them, trying to do the right thing. The guilt is getting to them. They can't stand it because they're too good a person. Religion, along with guilt, religion, a lot of people, when times get hard, when something's bearing on their mind, they really get religion. We call it jailhouse religion. A lot of times when people hear the doors clang behind them, you know, they get close to the Lord and they'll tell you the truth sometimes. Is this the kind of person, depending on how he's feeling, would you want to maximize the guilt or minimize it? Maximize, the seriousness of the crime or minimize it. You can go either way and not be lying to people. It's all a matter of perception. But what is this person's perception? What would appeal to them most and induce them to talk to you so you could put this thing to rest and do the right thing? Sometimes just the practical approach is best. And this may be weighing on this young man's mind real hard if something bad has happened. Or if he just knows where she is and won't tell it. The practical aspect could work in talking to him and trying to get him to open up. Brian, if you don't say, you're not saying anything, you certainly can't help. And people are going to have the belief that you've done something bad. And if something bad happens to her and you could have told us where she was and we could have saved her and kept that from happening, you got to live with that the rest of your life, which is very true, folks. Young man needs to hear that kind of thing. It really does. Another thing you can do, and this can be very powerful, is just beg for his help, along the line of what I just said. She may be out there, and she may need some help. Unless you tell us how to find her, we can't help her. I was working a case, another cold case here a few years back, and a guy had been arrested and locked up, put in jail, and he later got out. And he got locked up again on a methamphetamine charge, and it looked like he was good for the murder. I went back and talked to him again. Obviously, he despised the police, hated them for locking him up, and all this stuff. And when I went in asking for help. I said that the guy who had been murdered was his drug connection. And I said, look, I know you don't like me because I'm the police. We've never met before, but you don't like me. And I'm not asking you to like me. I don't care if you like me. But I need your help. The guy that got killed is your friend. He was a friend of yours. And I need your help. Who drove a car that came out there and did business with him? Who drove a red car that came out there and did business with him? Well, in fact, there was no red car. I made that up. But I wanted to get the guy talking to me, and it worked. He said, well, I can't think of anybody right now that knows. And he opened the door. We got started talking. Sometimes those things work. Ask him for help. And it's genuine in this case. Genuine. We need his help to put this thing to rest. And I hope he's safe. I hope they're both safe. And maybe this time next week we'll all know what happened. Once again, this is Jimmy Leach. Thanks for spending your time with us. And until next time, I'd like to ask you to please be safe. Thanks.